Welcome back to Radical Health, everybody. My name is Seth, and I'm happy to be here today with y'all. Radical Health! All right, this is the Q&A episode, or the first one at least. We'll maybe do some more. There's a lot of questions out there. A lot of these questions I had earlier in my life. And so I've compiled a bunch of these common questions that my friends and random people on the internet have. And I'm going to try to answer them to the best of my ability today. We're talking a lot about food because I find a lot of the common questions around health have to do with what we eat, how to eat, when to eat, what to eat, why to eat even. I guess let me preface this by saying I'm not a health coach. I'm not a licensed medical practitioner. I do not give advice. None of this is health advice. Nothing on this show should be interpreted as diagnosis or treatment for any disease or symptom. I'm just a guy answering questions as best as I understand it. Look into this stuff and don't readily believe anything that I tell you. Let's get into it, shall we? This first question, I've just been hearing more about the raw vegan diet. I currently am not on a vegan or vegetarian diet, but would really love to learn more. Where do I begin? Well, first, welcome. Good for you for wanting to expand your worldview, your information sources, and ask questions. That's all great. The main foundation of the raw vegan philosophy is this. There's only one food group in the world that tastes amazing to humans without us having to process, cook, combine, or season those foods in any way. And what is that food group? It's fruits, of course. Raw, ripe fruits taste mind-blowingly delicious. You know, maybe not the underripe, factory-produced fruits you find in the grocery store. They might not be as mind-blowing as they can be. But if you go blueberry picking or apple picking or get some fresh tomatoes from the farmer's market, or if you get a mango off the ground in the summertime in Miami, you know. So right there, our instinct tells us there's only one food that we don't have to do anything to for it to satisfy us when we eat it. Now, all animals in nature also have this programming specific to whatever type of food their body type requires. Spiders love catching insects, wrapping them up in silk, and eating them. They love it. They don't have to cook or salt those insects in order for them to taste good. So right there, that's the first step to understanding this whole journey and what raw veganism is about. Fruit is a perfect food source. Now, I'm not saying we need to eat fruits exclusively. I just introduced that first concept to really point to the intuitive connection that humans have to fruits. And that's why raw vegans prioritize fruit. Second thing to note, I think, is that fruits digest pretty quickly relative to cooked foods. So we generally want to eat them earlier in the day on an empty stomach. So if you eat fruits right after a heavy meal, like whatever, meat and bread, the fruit, which is quick digesting, may get stuck behind the other foods, the slow digesting foods, the fatty, starchy foods, causing the fruit to ferment because it's not moving through the chain fast enough and the sugars are just sitting there. They ferment, they cause gas and bloating. So if you're going to start introducing more fruits to the diet, I like to do it early in the day on an empty stomach for breakfast. Breakfast and lunch is where I get all my hydrating fruits. And then later in the day, I usually expand to whatever I want to eat. Sometimes it's fruit again. A lot of times it's a salad. Sometimes it's something heavier and cooked. A couple other things to know. Mono meals are great. Again, this reflects nature, where if a human was walking in the wild, in a tropical, natural wild setting, they would likely come across a couple mango trees and be able to eat as many mangoes as they needed until they were full or satisfied. That's a one ingredient meal, and we call that a mono meal. So rather than having for breakfast 1 mango, 1 orange, 1 apple, and 2 kiwis, the body may have an easier time digesting just 4 mangoes. You're not sending multiple signals to the body to deploy different enzymes and acids to break down all these different materials found in various fruits or various foods. And so we're going to get into that. There's another question about food combining, and I will expand on that. But in general, explore monomeals. Try eating bananas until you're satisfied for one meal. Try eating mangoes until satisfied for one meal. And don't neglect greens. Leafy greens like lettuce, baby spinach, microgreens, sprouts, sweet herbs. They are rich in vitamins, alkaline minerals, chlorophyll, which is like the blood of a plant, and life force. Plus the fiber in greens acts like a broom in the stomach. It's got a lot of that cellulose, which helps to sweep and pull out old waste. So a lot of people who get into this raw veganism, they go really heavy on fruits, don't eat a lot of greens, and then may experience some imbalances. So I love my greens. I try to eat a pound of greens a day. It sounds like a lot. And if I can't get that in through kale smoothies and lettuce salads and whatnot, I'll try to get some wheatgrass juice, or as a last resort, I have some barley grass juice powder. It's just like pure powdered green juice, where if I can't get my fresh greens in that day, I'll throw in some powder in the smoothie. Now, the other flip side to knowing more about raw veganism or vegetarianism is knowing why we're abstaining from the animal foods. There are two pillars that hold up my reasoning for abstaining from animal foods and for embracing raw living fruits and vegetables. On one pillar is the health aspect. My body is fueled better by raw living fruits and vegetables than from dead corpses. If you want to look more into the correlation between animal products and chronic disease and the most deadly diseases, read the China study. On the other pillar, holding up my decision to abstain from animal products, is the ethical aspect. What does it feel like to see an innocent puppy get punched and kicked by a mean owner? It feels pretty bad. Now, if animals were really just our property and there for us to consume and get strong off of, we probably wouldn't care if we saw animals get abused. We'd probably start salivating, actually, if we were truly carnivores. So if you'd like to explore deeper the ethical part of the equation, please watch the film Earthlings. It's free. It's online at nationearth.com. Earthlings will show you the devastation behind the animal industry. Even the industries you think are not so bad, like potentially dairy, because there's an idea that, to milk a cow, you don't have to kill it, which is true. But if you're to open the doors of these industrial dairy farms and see what's behind those doors, it might just break you down. It's really, really emotional. It's quite disgusting. It's unethical to pay for these industries to stay in business. So, that's my answer in a nutshell about why vegan, why vegetarian. Plants are the natural human food. They taste amazing without having to do anything to them. Not to mention they have the proper proportion of nutrients that humans need. Mostly water, fiber, carbohydrate, a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat, full of amino acids, full of electrolytes, vitamins and minerals, and life force. Living, vibrating food for our living, vibrating cells. And the ethical aspect, on the other hand. I don't think it's right to keep animals as slaves, just like I don't think it's right to keep humans as slaves. Therefore, I refuse to pay money to that industry, period. One last little point on this question before I move to the next one. Don't feel the need to switch your diet overnight, and take time to transition smoothly. Meaning, once you come into this information, sometimes there can be an attachment to switching right away and being as perfect as you can. But chances are you're undoing decades of attachment to animal foods, cooked foods, and addicting foods. And so we need to take time to wean ourselves off of those and make sure that we're emotionally comfortable as we take a new step. Now, I get it. Discomfort is where we grow, and you're going to need to challenge yourself a little bit to take those steps out of your comfort zone. Just don't feel the need to switch overnight. If you need to take a whole year and cut out red meat, but still include chicken and eggs and fish and whatever you want, fine. Maybe the next year you can start to wean away from some of those other things. And the year after that, you can start minimizing salt. And the year after that, you can start minimizing oils. However you want to do it, only you know best how to move forward. But take your time to plan out a transition so that you don't drive yourself crazy in the process. Okay, next question. I'm super new to the whole eating raw. I was given some produce and have not ever used it. Swiss chard, spinach, green garlic, beets, radishes, and mint. I have eaten beets and radishes, but not anything else raw or cooked. Please help. Okay, cool. So what I see on that list of produce, I don't see any fruits, which is fine. We can still definitely use these greens. Again, I love greens. And my mind goes straight to green smoothies. So I would take that Swiss chard, put that in a blender with banana and maybe some date, a little water or coconut water, and blend that up. You have an amazing, sweet, nutritious green smoothie. And why smoothies? Well, chewing up 6 leaves of Swiss chard is not that fun. You need to chew a lot, and those greens can be kind of tough. But when you blend them, you break open those cell walls in the cellulose fiber, and those vitamins and minerals and all the nutrients from the greens can easily be absorbed by our system. Now, I understand that as you blend and as you're introducing oxygen to the insides of the vegetable, that it oxidizes and the vitamin content decreases. That is true. However, green smoothies have a marked health benefit, noticeable health benefit that I notice in my body. Victoria Butenko's got a great book called Green for Life, where she goes into green smoothies. She's designed and conducted her own experiments, scientific studies using green smoothies, and the results are pretty powerful. What other produce you got? You got beets and mint. I would make a grated beet salad with mint and orange juice. Very simple. Just grate the beets up, marinate them in orange juice, let them soak in there for a little bit with some chopped mint. And that'll be a great cooling salad or a side dish, or you can stuff lettuce wraps with that, or you can put it in nori wraps or anything. The grated beet salad, mint and orange juice, very simple. And if you don't want to eat raw beets, you can cook the beets. Just boil them or steam them, cube them, and then cover in orange juice and add chopped mint. What other greens we got? You got spinach, green garlic. Okay, I would turn that into a pesto sauce. Yeah, I'd put the radish tops and beet tops in there too. Because beets and radishes are root vegetables, but they have these beautiful green tops that are highly nutritious. So I would take the spinach, the green garlic, and the radish tops. I'd blend that with some lemon juice. If you want a fat source, you can use cold pressed olive oil, flax oil, or tahini. And just blend those all together. If you like salt, you can add salt. And then I would take that pesto and pour it over some noodles, zucchini and cucumber noodles if you want to keep it raw. But you can also use that fresh green pesto over cooked pasta. And as far as the radishes, I would just slice those up real thin or grate them into my salad. I will say, after having eaten raw food for a long time, radishes are really spicy to me now. They're much spicier than they used to be. I think I'm just more sensitive to the natural spice in these foods. So I hope you can find some good things to do with all that produce. Another question about raw food. One person asks, what's an easy raw Italian dressing to make? Now, I think when a lot of people hear Italian dressing, they think of the oil and vinegar and the herbs. When I hear Italian, I think red gravy, tomato sauce. And so I like to use fresh tomato, sun-dried tomato, date, like 1 or 2 dates maybe in the blender, and some fresh herbs like parsley and basil. So again, fresh tomato, sun-dried tomato, date, herbs. If you blend those up in a blender, it's going to be the most slappin' delicious Italian red gravy that you could imagine. It tastes better than the cooked version, in my opinion. Optionally, you can add red pepper, sweet or spicy, garlic or red onion, based on your taste preference. Blend that together. I just put that over broccoli sometimes, steamed broccoli. Sometimes I'll put it over my raw chopped salad. And a lot of times I'll put it over noodles. I've done both cooked wheat noodles and raw zucchini or cucumber noodles, which is a great raw replacement, by the way. Zucchini and cucumber noodles through a spiralizer. Man, so good. Raw food. So much water, so much good fiber. And it tastes as delicious as the sauce you put on it. All right, moving on. More questions about food. What are the best foods for skateboarding activity? A friend asks. I say fruits. Bring a bag of oranges or bring a few bananas on the next skate sesh. They have their own packaging, right? They have their own peel around them, which protects them. So you can throw them in your bag and skate around. And you won't need tools to eat them. If you brought like a watermelon around, you might need a knife or spoon or whatever. But, oranges, bananas, super easy to eat with your hands. They have their own packaging. They're cheap. And I know skateboarders spend more time skating than working. So in general, they're kind of poor too. I love skaters. I am one. But why do oranges and bananas support the high energy activity that is skateboarding? Well, they're full of water, sugar, carbohydrates, which our body uses as fuel. It burns quickly and readily with very little toxic burden. And skateboarders get injured all the time. We're constantly chucking ourselves down flights of stairs and falling on concrete, getting impaled by handrails and stuff. So we're always healing. And if your body is healing from a physical injury, it would heal faster if it wasn't also dealing with a gastrointestinal injury. So eat the foods that injure you the least. Fruits. Why don't you try doing a skate sesh this weekend after eating like a big heavy breakfast, pancakes and bacon or whatever you like to eat. Next weekend, do a skate sesh after having just some oranges or some raw fruits for breakfast. I bet you're going to feel lighter. I bet you're going to be able to jump higher, have more stamina. You won't overheat as much. Give it a shot. You let me know how it goes. Now, the same person asked, what is your ideal breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Here we go. My ideal breakfast is a ripe pineapple. Just one pineapple that's yellow on the outside, super sweet on the inside, not too acidic. If you get a pineapple that's not too acidic, it's not going to bother your mouth at all. You can eat the entire thing with no stinging on the tongue or anything like that. My ideal breakfast is a pineapple. My ideal lunch, I think, would be, how about a banana kale smoothie bowl topped with dried mulberries and cacao nibs. So I'm getting my banana, my carbohydrates, my kale, my dark greens. Okay, and then the dried mulberries and cacao nibs, that's just, I don't think we need cacao nibs, but they taste freaking awesome. And it just adds this dimension to the smoothie bowl. They are a relatively low processed food. And you're basically eating a bowl of ice cream with chocolate for lunch. So that's what I would do. I would have my smoothie bowl topped with some dried fruit like mulberries and cacao nibs. If you want, you can throw some seeds or coconut flakes on there as well. I like to keep it pretty simple, keep the ingredients list pretty low. But when I get to the end of the day, generally that's kind of sometimes where I'll use more ingredients. My ideal dinner is a big ass salad with lettuce, microgreens, cucumber, potato, steamed potato, maybe some berries, and some avocado, and a little sauce, maybe made out of tomato or mango and tomato, or do a little lime juice with tahini if I do want more fat. So yeah, I would say the ideal dinner is just a big ass salad with all my favorite veggies in there. Obviously, that's going to be seasonal too. If it's not berry season, I'm not putting berries in there. I'm way more likely to use tomatoes and cucumber in the summertime. And then there's all these variations you can create on the salad by wrapping it up in a tortilla or in a nori sheet or in a lettuce leaf. So wraps, nori rolls, lettuce tacos, those are all variations on the salad. So that's what I would do. I'm doing this pretty high raw vegan lifestyle now. I don't eat exclusively raw food, which explains the potatoes. But yeah, for the most part, my ideal breakfast, lunch, and dinner is just chock full of fruits and vegetables. Pineapple, smoothie bowl, salad. Let's go. Who's coming over for dinner tonight? Let's go. Now you may be hearing this and thinking to yourself, man, how do I afford all that fruit and vegetables? Isn't eating plant-based expensive? This is a very common question. The short answer is no. Eating plants is designed to be free. Plants are self-reproducing and contain the seeds within them to plant infinite more of those things. And the same goes for vegetables. But the short answer is no. It's not expensive. You can grow plants perpetually. You can be in charge of your own food supply. And in this day and age, we're very separated from our natural world. So of course, not everyone's going to grow their own food. We're so busy, we're working, we're in this money matrix. We're taught that we have to work for other people to be able to afford food in the store. But I do see a paradigm shift happening now where people are valuing more their own food production. So we need to redefine value and expense. If we just think in terms of money, then we're trapped in that paradigm and it will remain your top value. When in reality, if most people are being honest with themselves, they value things like health and family first before money. So again, redefine expense, redefine value. If I value my health, right, and I think having chronic illness is an expense on my body, then I'm going to see those organic cherries in the store not as expensive, but as valuable. It's valuable to my health. It's valuable to my well-being. Eating the cheeseburger is expensive. Even though it only costs a few dollars, potentially, it can lead me with thousands of dollars of hospital bills down the road and pain and suffering. That is expensive. Meat is expensive. The energy it takes to murder a cow is a huge expense. And if you knew what that felt like, you would agree. It's not easy to drive a bolt through a cow's head and skin it and chop all of its meat off. It's easy to go buy a piece of meat, right? That's all covered in plastic and filled with preservatives and dyes to make it look fresh. You know, hospital bills are expensive. Fruit in its natural state is free. All right, I like this question here. What's your take on maple syrup? Because maple syrup is a plant food, but it's sugar. Oh my God, and sugar is so demonized these days. Here's my opinion on that. Maple syrup is delicious. I grew up in New England. I've collected maple sap. I've boiled maple sap into maple syrup. And honestly, it's a fine plant food. It's definitely not raw maple syrup because you have to cook it down 40 times in volume to be thick and sticky and super sweet like that. So the human body burns sugar. Human body loves sugar. Sugar's not the problem. It's generally eating a diet high in fat alongside the sugar that's the problem. And also dealing with all these highly refined sources of sugar that are not packaged with the whole food. Now, with that said, yes, maple syrup is processed. It is refined. To me, it's not the ideal form of sugar. I've only eaten maple syrup maybe twice in the last couple of years. But here's what people aren't talking enough about. Maple sap, which is the syrup before it gets boiled down. This is the juice. This is the water that comes straight out of the maple trees. It's a clear liquid. It's as thin as water. And it's delicious, man. It's sweet. It's the coconut water of the North. A lot of people who discover raw veganism or fruitarianism are scared that they can't find enough fruits in the wintertime in the North. Now, that may be true. There's a limited access while it's cold up there, and fruits don't grow as readily. However, nature provides, man. The maple trees are bleeding this sap that can sustain you. If I lived in New Hampshire in the winter, you know I'd be tapping a tree and drinking that. You don't even need to boil it down. Again, it's like the coconut water of the North. And I don't see anybody talking about maple sap. All right, that's my take on that. Ooh, this is a fun one. This is a question everybody is talking about because it's been popularized by some of these well-known carnist types, and that's seed oils. The question is, what's the issue with seed oils? Now, here's my hot take. Lumping all seed oils together is a distraction. It's a distraction used by corpse eaters to demonize plant foods. This must be the cause of everyone's poor health today. Seed oils. Now, obviously, canola oil and other ultra-refined oils are toxic garbage, and your body will have a hard time processing them. We've always known that. This is nothing new. We didn't need a seed oil campaign to remind us of the dangers of canola oil. But you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. You can't throw out cold-pressed hemp oil, flax oil, sesame oil, sunflower oil. Those aren't as bad as the other ultra-processed versions. And they may actually have a beneficial place in a plant-based lifestyle, in a vegan lifestyle, in a raw food vegan lifestyle. I said it. Cold-pressed hemp oil may not be the most pristine raw food, but it is very lightly processed. It's easy to digest, and many people consider it medicinal. Many people consider hemp and flax, and there's actually studies been done about those two products showing their beneficial use in degenerative diseases. And sunflower oil, I wouldn't eat that raw, but if you're going to cook something that you want high heat for, sunflower oil is great because it has a really high smoke point, so it's not going to burn like olive oil will once you start cranking the heat pretty high. So if you're going to make your own popcorn, for example, a great way to do it is get your own kernels, not covered in salt and butter. Heat up some sunflower oil in a pan, get it real hot, throw in the kernels, and pop them. Great. You don't have to use butter. You don't have to use salt with popcorn. You don't have to use some cheap oil. You don't have to use a microwave, right? So there's always like whole food versions of your favorite foods. So in short, don't demonize seed oils altogether. Use discernment. Okay? Recognize the spectrum of the low quality, highly processed oils and then the high quality, low processed oils. There's a huge difference. Here's another really common question. Should we eat papaya seeds? I hear they're anti-parasitic. Now, you're correct. Papaya seeds are indeed anti-parasitic. But does that mean that we should eat them? Next time you eat a papaya, cut that up, and before you indulge in that sweet, delicious orange flesh, why don't you crunch through a few of those seeds first? Let me know how they taste. Papaya seeds are toxic. Anything toxic would be anti to all sorts of life. So yes, papaya seeds may very well be anti-parasitic because they're so toxic that if there's any parasites in the gut, they're going to encounter the toxic material, potentially die. However, while you may think you're doing good things for the body by ingesting toxic stuff, you're actually injuring it. If toxic is anti-life, wouldn't it also be anti-life to the cells in your body? So that's the nuance there, is that yes, people are correct that papaya seeds are anti-parasitic, but so is Drano. Arsenic is anti-parasitic, so feel free to consume papaya seeds if you want, if you're doing a very specific parasite cleanse or detox. But I think if you just eat them during the course of a normal day, you're basically just eating poison and you're working against yourself. Contrarily, crunch through some passion fruit seeds or watermelon seeds and let me know how they taste compared to the papaya. There's no taste to watermelon seeds. There's no offensive bitterness, right? When a seed is offensive and bitter, that's nature telling you to spit it out. When you crunch through watermelon seeds and there's no offense other than the texture, which is not even offensive, then that's a sign telling you, yeah, these are a little more safe to eat. There's no red flag going up when I crunch into them. Hope that answers that question. So here's one that hits home for me because I'm trying to undo this in my life. This person asks, is it so bad to drink coffee? And again, I'll have to default to my stock answer of I don't like the terms good and bad when it comes to consumables. All foods are tools, and it's just important to know the chain of cause and effect when you consume any substance. So there's a case to be made that having a cup of coffee every once in a while for a celebration or for that extra stimulation could be a fine addition or supplement to a fully healthy life. A lot of long-lived people drink coffee every day. However, coffee kind of fucks with your adrenal glands. If you're constantly stimulating yourself in your nervous system and constantly drawing adrenaline out of your glands, you're going to deplete those things. Adrenal depletion is an extremely common symptom among coffee drinkers. And then why are they addicted to it? Because they wake up and they're so depleted, almost depressed, that they need that stimulant to then just feel good. So coffee is damaging to the adrenals. It's acidic, damaging to your cells. The body likes an alkaline environment. A lot of times coffee is brewed with tap water, which is hard water. And by brewing coffee in it, you're just making it harder. You're making this more mineralized, more particles in the water for your body to have to sift through and get rid of, or they get lodged in your body. So it's just good to know the potential damaging effects it could have on the body. It drains your adrenals. It's acidic. It's mineralized. It's a stimulant that draws your nervous system energy, your precious bank of nerves that your body uses to clean itself and heal, right? If you're constantly taxing that, how good are you doing at healing? So personally, I actually really love coffee. I love the brain stimulant it gives me. However, I know that I don't need it. One day I will be free of it. I'm in my transition period away from coffee, but I'm still embracing it as a tool for myself right now with no judgment. So a few years ago, I cut out all animal products. Today, actually, I got a head start yesterday, I'm embarking on a journey of no salt. Salt is also a stimulant, right? You eat a couple potato chips and you end up eating the whole bag. Why? Because salt is extremely stimulating and addicting. So I say that to say, as I'm backing away from certain foods in life and trying to heal from my attachment to them, I still am holding on to a few others just so I don't try to get rid of them all at once and go crazy. So, not so bad to drink coffee, but if you want to truly give your body more energy to heal itself, you may want to see what it feels like without it. And again, it's going to take maybe a week or more to sort of let your body catch up to its natural nerve energy reserves and feel like you can wake up in the morning without needing coffee. Now, for some people, it might take months. For some people with really damaged adrenals and a highly acidic system, it may take months of waking up feeling like garbage before you wake up and feel like $1,000,000. All right, more questions about animal foods. Is it so bad to eat cheese? And what about eggs? Cool. This one requires a little nuance. Let's get into it. I'm not necessarily a fan of the labels good and bad. I think those are judgments that are a bit overgeneralized. Again, foods are tools. Just like a hammer is a tool. It can be used to build a house. It can be used to hurt somebody. So is the hammer good or bad? Neither, it just is. Is eating cheese good or bad? Neither, it just is. Now, I would ask you, if you like cheese, is it a necessary staple of your diet because of extreme limited access to plant foods or a warm climate? And second question, is the quality of cheese pure? Meaning, was the cheese made from milk that came from a cow that was fed grass? Was this cow able to live outside in its natural habitat? Was this cow free of pharmaceuticals, antibiotics, hormones? And was that milk unpasteurized? So that's what I mean by the quality of the cheese being pure. Most of the cheese we see today comes from a factory. The cow was kept in a factory its whole life. Its calves were taken from them. They were fed corn instead of grass with a ton of additives, and they were boosted with a bunch of pharma cocktails. So cheese isn't just one food item either. It exists on a spectrum, from pure to factorized. And the heavier it leans toward factorized, the more you could apply the label bad to it. Maybe a more accurate label would be destructive, harmful, exploitative. Whereas if your milk and cheese were pure, I do believe that's a suitable food for mankind. Now, the vegans might get mad at me for this one, but raw milk is a living food. It's agreeable to most people's bodies. Even if you think you're lactose intolerant, raw milk contains lactase, which is the enzyme needed to break down lactose. Pasteurized, homogenized milk, which is most of what you find out there, no longer contains lactase. Therefore, you're not going to be able to break down the lactose, and the milk's going to hurt your gut. Let's say there's a time and a place where plant foods, and especially fruits, are extremely limited. You could get through a winter drinking milk. I know it's heavy in fat, and we don't need a lot of fat in general. But like I said, in a special case where it's needed, I honestly think raw milk could be a suitable addition to a diet seasonally, and especially when access to fruits are limited. But in general, let me say this about cheese. Do you know that milk contains casomorphine, which is a morphine-like compound? It's an opiate, and it's the drug that makes the calf who's drinking the milk from its mother feel happy and satiated. Now, when you make cheese, you're reducing the milk and concentrating it by 40 times. So the amount of casomorphine that's in a serving of milk for a baby calf is enough to make that calf basically high to want to come back to its mother and do that again. Now, when you eat cheese, you're eating that 40 times concentrated. Look it up, casomorphines. This is why cheese is so hard to break the addiction to. Now, one way to get off cheese is to replace it with hummus or avocado. I haven't craved cheese on anything in years now. Why? Because I got hummus. Hummus is that salty, creamy, plant-based replacement. And sometimes, if I do crave pizza, it's not the cheese that I want. It's the bread and the veggies and the sauce. And so that's what I order. I order a vegetable pizza with no cheese, and I'll bring it home and put avocado slices on it. Fresh avocado. There's that fattiness. There's that creaminess. I miss nothing. So it's not so bad to eat cheese. Again, I don't want to put that judgment on there, but you may be clogging up your system. You may be spending money on very exploitative industries. You may be spending money on slavery and murder of animals. And I'm talking the mass slavery and murder in the billions per year. And you're probably ingesting a lot of hormones and pharma drugs if you eat commercial milk and cheese. So I'll let you decide. Is that good or bad? All right, what about eggs? And I interrupt this broadcast to inform you that I had to edit out this section on eggs because I wasn't satisfied with the answer I gave. So I think I'm going to collect my thoughts and deliver that in the next Q&A episode. So stay tuned. All right. More questions on food. This is a really common question. I think I really like to address this one right now. Is drinking juice better than drinking the fruit? And is anything lost nutritionally in drinking rather than eating the fruit? That's a great question because you see a lot of people promoting the juice cleanse and the juice fast and juicing as a healthy either replacement or addition to your food. Now, I'm going to start this answer by saying, in general, chewing and eating the whole fruit is superior. The whole fruit is superior. It was given to us in nature with the fiber because the fiber helps us digest everything. The fiber helps slow the absorption of the sugar so our sugar levels and insulin don't spike together. Plant fiber is crucial to smooth digestion. It gives the gut something to act on and push through. And I mentioned earlier that plant fiber is kind of like a broom. It can push and it can pull toxins and old stuck waste through the small intestine, through the large intestine. And lastly, the fiber gives a great home to the microbiome in your large intestine. Fiber is the perfect substrate for all the bacteria in your guts. So, in general, chewing the whole fruit is superior. However, there are times when juices can become a tool for cleansing and detox. I think the juice cleanse is a great way to release a lot of waste from the body safely in a short amount of time. Like if you have a gut, a visible gut that's not just fat, you know it's something deeper in your gut kind of making it stick out, you can do a couple weeks or a few months on juice and watch your gut shrink every single day as you continue to poop out old waste. The juice cleanse can be miraculous for some people. And it's generally those people who have a really backed up system full of old, hardened, stuck waste. Now, a lot of times this old, hardened, stuck waste can create blockages, obstructions in the guts. And piling more fiber in there creates these complications because the obstructions only allow like a very small opening through certain areas, potentially. So when you try to eat more fiber, it gets stuck and it causes tremendous discomfort. And people suffering from Crohn's have been shown to benefit from a juice cleanse because let's say there's like a little pinhole size opening in their gut because most of it's caked up with this old waste that isn't able to go through. Well, juice can go through a pinhole. And juice has all these great acids if it's, lemon juice and citrus or grapes. These acids that are astringent that can help break down the old waste, help dissolve and peel off what people call mucoid plaque from the small intestines. And yes, the juice cleanse can help you get rid of all that in a short amount of time. Now, there's some things you got to watch out for. A lot of people, after they do a juice cleanse, have a hard time sticking to raw foods and they'll swing back on the other end of the pendulum and go back to whatever salty, greasy, cooked foods they were eating before. Right? Because it is pretty restrictive to not chew for a few months or to not swallow solid food, right? So you just got to be aware to try not to swing back on the pendulum so far. Another way to prevent that is to just do very short juice cleanses. 3 days maybe. The first juice cleanse I did, I called it a solid food vacation because I was including tea and water, sparkling water, in addition to fruit and vegetable juices. That third day of the juice cleanse was the first day that I noticed I didn't have to use my inhaler. My asthma was gone. That was only 3 days in. I've done a few other 3-day juice cleanses. I've done a 9-day and a 6-day. And I think I would like to go longer sometime. But you just got to be aware of the pros and the cons. Don't do it just because someone else is doing it. And don't let it drive you crazy. Don't get orthorexic. Orthorexia is this obsession with being healthy and a fear of certain foods. I see a lot of people on these long-term juice fasts, juice cleanses, that are really demonizing all sorts of foods, like bread, for example. And they say, oh, that's poison, it's garbage, it's just addictive drugs. But secretly, they're craving that thing, driving themselves nuts, and then they may go break and binge on bread. But then since they have the narrative in their head that it's bad for them, they get really shameful, guilty, fearful. And we don't want that. We do not want that. Again, all food is a tool. Juice can be a tool. Bread can be a tool. Coffee can be a tool. Eggs can be a tool. How do you use it? What are the consequences of using that tool? So, juice has a lot of great benefits, some things to worry about. But if you want to learn more, find John Rose on YouTube. And I guess the last thing I'll say about this is that you can't just live on juice. The liquidarian thing doesn't last. The human body loves fiber. Hope that answered that question a bit. Okay, now here's a very common question about meat eating. A lot of times they ask, what is the opinion of the advocates for the raw diet on Aboriginals who had to eat meat in order to survive, as there would not have been enough fruit for the Aboriginals to eat in the Simpson Desert, or the Inuits in Iceland? They got a lot of nutrients from eating meat. And okay, yes, this is a common question. Humans are highly adaptable creatures, meaning we are able to process both animal products and grains in addition to fruits and vegetables, and we can use them as fuel when plant foods are scarce. But animal products digest much slower. They cause excess and significantly more burden on the body than fruits do. So to me, that indicates that eating animals can be a survival tool. And yes, throughout history, we see over thousands of years, people ate a lot of meat. But to use that reasoning to try to argue that that's normal and natural is called an appeal to tradition. It's a logical fallacy. It's not a logically sound argument to point to what people do and say, because so many people have done that for so many years, it must be right. Because think about it, humans do a lot of dumb stuff. You know, what if we have been in this dark ages coming out of an ice age for the last 12,000 years? What if we've been eating meat just to survive, and because we're disconnected from the truly exalted state that humans can be in when we live in a tropical environment and all of our needs are being met? You got to ask yourself, are humans meant to live in the tundra or in the desert? Is it sustainable for humans to live in a place where the air hurts your skin? Now, when this next fact clicked in my brain, I was like, oh my God. Basically, humans are tropical creatures. We're not like polar bears adapted to live in these cold climates. In cold regions, humans always bundle up to create a warm, humid environment against our skin. We turn on the heat inside or in the car to resemble what it feels like in the tropics naturally. 70-something degrees, a little humidity. So we're always creating this tropical microclimate under our clothes, within our homes, against our skin, because we are tropical creatures. There's actually strong evidence that the entire world was tropical at one point, maybe before the Ice Age. And one other thing you got to look to about the Inuits is that they have a very short lifespan, relatively. There's an article called Mortality Among the Baffin Inuit in the Mid-80s. And I know you asked about the Inuits in Iceland, but this is one I found about Canadian Inuits up in northern Canada. And their life expectancy at birth is about 66 years, approximately 10 years lower than that for the general Canadian population. And this was in the mid-1980s. So in the 80s, the decade the microwave came out, and processed food was all the rage, Canadian population average lived to 76 years old. Not that long for humans. And the Inuits have a lower expectancy than that. So the Canadians who are eating processed food live much longer than these Inuits who eat whale blubber. Being an Inuit or living in a desert is extreme. Living in the tropics and eating fruit is natural and normal. That's my opinion. What do y'all think about that? All right, here's another question about what is natural for humans. Should humans drink water? I heard that fruits have the best water and we don't need to drink plain water. Now, this is a really good question. It's a really common question because I hear many fruitarians claim that the water in fruits is all we need, and it's the highest quality because it's structured. Now, it is true that the water in fruits is the highest quality and structured. I think in an ideal world, perhaps humans would have very little need to drink water, that if we were eating in accordance with our physiology, there would be adequate water in all of our food. However, we don't live in accordance with nature in a pristine way right now. Everyone's walking around dehydrated, with clogged up lymph, blood, intestines, and we need to undo all that before being able to embrace a drinking water-free lifestyle. If our lymph and our blood is all clogged up with fat and toxin, and our intestines are clogged up with waste and plaque, guess what the best solvent is for all that stuff? It's not fruit juice. It's distilled water. So if you have an acidic condition, if you have plaque and you have minerals just caking up your system, and you start throwing in a gallon of distilled water a day, well, all that hardened waste starts to get softened. It starts to get absorbed by the distilled water. It takes minerals out of your body, but not the good ones. It takes the bad ones out. People say, oh, distilled water will deplete your minerals. Well, that's kind of true, but it's not entirely accurate. It's going to deplete the minerals that shouldn't be there in the first place. The inorganic minerals, the rocks that you've swallowed over your life, the heavy and the soft metals that have lodged in your organs and cells because of what they put in the tap water and what they put in our food. So take a guess what happens to the body when you eat a diet of primarily fruits and greens and you drink 3 to 5 liters of distilled water a day. Guess what happens to the body? All of that acidic crap gets diluted and removed. The acidic buildup of minerals and waste gets diluted and safely removed. Water's life. I think if you're new to a health journey, or you're new to eating fruits, or you just have a question about water, do not be afraid of water. Do not dehydrate your system any more than it already is. We are experiencing epidemic levels of dehydration and acidic conditions in humans. So, long story short, distilled water is the best solvent. I like distilled the best, and a low mineral content spring water the second best. People make the argument that if water doesn't have electrolytes in it, then the cell can't draw the water in. The body cells can't draw water in because there's no electrical differential to assist that process. But here's the thing. That's where the fruit juices come in handy. The fruit juices hydrate you on a cellular level. The distilled water hydrates the waste. That's the key. Don't drink water to hydrate your cells. Drink water to hydrate your waste. And then eat fruits to hydrate your cells. That to me is the huge crux of this answer of this question that people aren't seeing. Try this next time you wake up. Immediately start drinking water. Spend the first 30 to 60 minutes after you wake up. Get a couple pint glasses of water. Fill them up. Put them on your bedside table. Sit up. You can read a little bit. You can meditate. You can just sit and sip. Start sipping that water. I wouldn't recommend chugging. I like sipping slowly to sort of let all that water soak into whatever waste is sitting in the small intestine. If we chug, sometimes it can just fly right past all the waste. So start sipping. Every minute, take a sip. And you'll see, after 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you're going to feel the waste cranking back to life and start to digest again. You're hydrating your waste, folks. And then you're going to have a bowel movement. Again, it depends on what you ate last night, depends on who you are, depends on a lot of stuff. But see what it does for you. If you start drinking water early in the morning and you down a couple pints, which is like a quart or more. Sometimes I'll drink 2 quarts, a half gallon, before I do anything, before I get out of bed. And then I have the best bowel movement ever, and I'm on with my day. Water hydrates the waste. Fruits hydrate your cells. All right, this person asks, how to build muscle. And a lot of people have the same question, how do you build muscle on a vegetarian, vegan diet? And the short answer is this: resistance training. Period. If you want to build muscle, you have to use your muscles over and over and over and over again. But I got a question for you. Which is the priority here? Do you want strength or size? Because you're going to want to do different things if you have a different goal. And what kind of abilities do we want? What kind of strength do we need to have in this world? Well, look at the natural ways of moving our body and being strong. Running, climbing, and lifting heavy stuff in all sorts of positions. That's basically it. If we can run a lot, we can climb, lift our own body weight, and lift heavy stuff, again, in all sorts of positions, whether that's picking up a heavy bag off the ground, carrying your kid on your shoulders, lugging a jug of water on your head. Like, these are the things that we need strength for. Practical activities. Now, how do you train that? I think the best ways to do that are calisthenics and kettlebells. I'm going to throw the jump rope in there and the weighted jump rope as a bonus because I've been doing that a lot and I've really been enjoying it. The weighted jump rope is a full body workout. It's cardio. I can feel the muscles on the sides of my torso get ripped. I can feel muscles in my core activate that I've never felt activate before. So jump rope is a great addition to calisthenics, which is body weight exercise, pull-ups, push-ups, lunges, squats, all that stuff, and kettlebells. Kettlebells are those big metal weights with a handle on them on the top. The science and study of kettlebells shows us that they are probably the best tool to create this full body strength training. Kettlebells also mimic how we pick things up in the world, whether it's, again, your child or a bag or a rock or a bass amplifier. If we have the basics down and we practice and train with these kettlebells, the science actually shows that you can get better at pretty much any sport or activity just by training kettlebells and not training that activity. They found that pitchers can throw a better fastball after training kettlebells. They find that basketball players can jump higher after training kettlebells. So, how to build muscle? Resistance training. Pick up heavy things, put them down. Lift your body weight, lower your body weight. Do it over and over and over and over again, consistently every day, and you will notice your muscles build. Food does not build muscle. Using the muscle builds muscle. Now, eating protein and protein powder and animal products is a common technique used by these gym rats. Why? Because it makes their muscles swell with water. And they look stronger. Their muscles look bigger when they're swollen with water. Why does your body swell with water when you eat high protein foods? Because high protein foods create harsh acids in the breakdown. And all these harsh acids flowing through our bloodstream are damaging to the muscles, damaging to our cells. So the body sends a bunch of water to those cells to dilute the acids. And you're basically just swollen. You're not adding strength. You're just adding water weight. I think I'm pretty good at telling who eats protein powder because they just look so swollen. I can see a lot of people out there who have like big arms, big chest, but they have lots of acne on their face. They look swollen. They don't look very flexible or mobile. And a lot of times their breath stinks. Oof. I would rather be ripped but lean and strong. I want a Bruce Lee body, not an Arnold Schwarzenegger body. So keep those tips in mind when you're trying to build muscle. Don't just try to fatten yourself up with protein. Get into resistance training, get into calisthenics, and start using your muscles over and over and over and over again. All right. Here's a big question. Someone recently asked, do you have any advice on treating hypothyroidism? And the short answer is no, because I don't offer advice. I don't offer information intended to diagnose, treat, or cure. So the short answer is no. But I have some information I can share with you. According to Lauren Whiteman, who runs the Terrain Model group on Facebook, The thyroid cannot function properly when it is not provided the materials it requires to make the chemicals it produces. When we misfeed the body, we remove the thyroid's ability to work efficiently and effectively. When we correct our diet and feed the body properly, the thyroid heals rapidly. Telling a patient that the correct diet will not help is criminal. Not only does both underactive and overactive thyroid heal quickly when we return to natural foods, but people who have had their thyroid surgically removed as children and young adults also find that the thyroid can grow back and return to normal function when they eat the natural diet and stop poisoning their body with cooked foods. Nothing special needs to be done to heal the thyroid. The person just has to return to the natural diet. Again, that was by Lauren, and her interpretation of the natural diet is fruits and tender leaves, some nuts and seeds. Now, from my understanding, I think she's correct. And I say this based off of a few positive testimonials I've heard from people. Now, keep this in mind before I go through these testimonials. Many people know the connection between iodine and the thyroid. Iodine plays a key role in supplying the thyroid with what it needs. Now, here are some foods that contain organic iodine. It's not just sea vegetation. You got pineapples, grapes, strawberries, peaches, watermelon, bananas, cucumbers, carrots, tomatoes, leafy greens, buku iodine in Swiss chard, kale, turnip greens, mustard greens, lettuce, spinach. So just know, those are some great sources of natural organic iodine. Now, on to the testimonials. There's a lady on YouTube. She goes by Texas Fruitarian, and she has a bunch of videos talking about this, including one that's called Curing Hashimoto's Hypothyroidism with Low-Fat Raw Vegan Fruitarian Diet. Medication-free at last. It's a pretty amazing testimonial about how she was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's disease, and was just so down and out, so incapacitated by fatigue, low energy, brain fog. She was gaining weight rapidly. All the common symptoms of hypothyroidism. When she switched to vegan, nothing really changed. But when she switched to raw vegan, fruitarian, that's when she noticed some of the biggest changes. She started noticing the symptoms of over-medication. And so with the help of her doctor, she started cutting back on her medication, on her pills. And every time she would experience a new symptom of over-medication, she would then lower the dosage again until eventually she was medication-free completely. Now, the story doesn't stop there because she did get worse health-wise, but I don't think it was due to the diet. It was, according to her, in another video, her latest video on YouTube is from a festival where she gives a lecture and a presentation. She explains that she had deformed upper and lower airways, really small sinuses and jaws, which caused sleep apnea, lack of oxygen, and a resulting cortisol storm leading to the worst health issues. So she actually got that addressed with surgery. They opened up her sinuses a bit, and just from that, she was able to breathe better, sleep better, and those problems started to go away. She still maintains a low-fat raw vegan diet and attributes that to her complete reversal of hypothyroidism. Here's another testimonial from a guy named Andre. He writes, "For the last 15 years or so, I'd wake up and reach for a thyroid pill first thing every day. In August, I came across this group, and I think he's referring to the Terrain Model Refutes Germ Theory group on Facebook. In August, I came across this group, started learning and applying its teachings. I decided to wean myself off the pills, so I convinced the doctor to prescribe me a reduced dose. After 3 months, I tested better than normal. After some time and reducing the pills and switching to a high raw diet, Andre says, after 15 years, I am off thyroid pills completely. The darn pills were the last crutch holding me to allopathic medicine." So 18 months later, since the initial post, he came back and commented on the post. He said, 18 months on and I've never looked back. Feel better than ever. And he says he was dependent on these thyroid medications because his body wouldn't produce the hormones after a while. So he writes, how to break this dependency. For me, it was a lot of positive thinking, determination, radical diet changes, and largely guesswork. I did my best and put my money on my body's ability to heal. He says, health is obtained by subtraction, not addition. I eliminated or severely reduced from my diet caffeine, teas, salt, cooked foods, herbs, and most vegetables except some occasional leafy greens. I ate fruit and more fruit. Every bite was the best bite of my life. He says, I picked up fruit from neighbors with fruit trees, bought the best quality organic fruit I could find. Fruit. Did I mention I love fruit? And the last thing Andre writes is that this is a tiny battle only. I still have 4 decades of toxicity to clean up, but the future is bright. I do not fear pathogens or chronic disease. And again, this is someone who was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, was on thyroid medication for, how long did he say? 15 years? And through changing his diet, completely reversed the symptoms, completely got off the dependency of the medication. One more testimonial regarding these thyroid problems. And this one's from Paula. She says, I was diagnosed with either Hashimoto's or Graves' disease. I wouldn't let the endocrinologist do the horrible invasive test just to know which one. She was fine with that and admitted that it makes no difference as they medicate based on the blood test numbers anyways. I had suffered with terrible symptoms for about 25 years. I took the meds for about 3 months, but weaned myself off of them, cutting the pills in half, then in fourths, then nothing. My numbers have been normal since, and I have my thyroid. They claimed I would need the meds for the rest of my life. F that. Now, what Paula doesn't mention in this comment is that she eats raw vegan. Once she cut out the cooked, starchy, salty animal product foods and replaced them with fruits, leafy greens, some nuts and seeds. But again, the low fat seems to help better with this. No more symptoms of Hashimoto's. Now, there's a lot more testimonials about that, but just know that in general, the body can take care of any imbalance when we start removing the toxin, removing the burdensome foods, and replacing them with raw, living foods appropriate for our body. That's going to do it for today. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hope I don't sound too crazy with all these ideas. Shout out to everyone who asked questions for the show. And the ones I didn't get to, I'm going to get to on the next Q&A episode. Stay tuned because next week we're going to interview a friend of mine, Sabrina Farb, and she was born vegan and hasn't touched animal products her entire life. And she doesn't have a protein deficiency, y'all. She's doing well, thriving, and we're going to talk about her evolution as an animal rights activist. As always, stay hydrated, get in your raw living foods, hug a friend, hug a tree, go outside barefoot, sing a song, tell a friend you love them, and have an excellent day. We'll see you next time. Radical